b'shalach Paroi. Paroi is sending Klal Yisrael out of Mitzrayim. The slaves are leaving slavery. What a celebration. But they're not going the straight way. They're going the crooked way. They're going the long way. Why are they going the long way? Because maybe on the way, if they go the short way, they're going to get to the first war, and they're going to get scared, and they're just going to run back to slavery. So therefore, we're going to take them round and round. The Torah doesn't mention anything just because. Everything is to teach us, to show us the tactics, the ways of thinking of the people at the time, because those tactics and those ways of thinking are being used on us by the very Torah that's teaching us those tactics. Moshe Rabbeinu was using tactics. We're not going to take you straight. We're going to take you roundabout. We're not going to tell you exactly what we're saying. We're going to say it in a way that you have no idea what we're saying. And yet that's exactly how we're going to say it. And don't come crying that it's not fair. No, this is for your benefit, because if we tell you straight, you're going to get scared, and then you're going to run back and say, you know what, don't tell me nothing. But that's not where you're going to find your greatness. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not leading them in a way that is direct. He's leading them in a way that is best. The offer, the Yesod offer, is the letters of Paro. The Yesod offer is the lowest of the elements. It's the element that gives us grounding. Grounding means that we resist change. That's the nature of grounding. When we're looking for grounding, it means that change is happening so fast we don't feel ourselves. What will make us feel ourselves? A little bit of that old juice that we're used to, that we're actually running away from. That would be exactly what would make us feel ourselves. That's what we're used to feeling. So when we want grounding, the appropriate grounding is to be established into where we're going. The unhealthy search for grounding is to fall right back into the habits that we're trying to escape. Moshe and Aaron are the two elements that rise above, the fire and the air. Paro is the ground. It doesn't want to change. The fire is burning to change, and the air is trying to translate softly so that the lower elements can contain the passion of the fire. And the earth is grounding. The earth doesn't want to change. So then comes a struggle between the elements. The fire and the air are pulling up. The water and the earth are pulling down, until finally the higher elements win. The higher elements manage to form within the lower elements the intelligence that's trying to act. I should place these letters within Pare, within the element of earth, should be the letters that the fire is trying to make known, to use as guidance for what takes place. And then Pare surrenders. The letters win. There is change. Pare releases the people. Everybody gets to leave. But it's not going to go in the most direct route. Oh, you want me to become from A, B? Very nice. Let's simply change. Tell me, from now on, you do this instead of that. That's not how it's going to work. There's going to be phases. There's going to be changes that come in a sequence. One change is going to invite another change, and another change is going to invite another change. And maybe after all the changes, we're almost back to where we started, but something is so very different. Because the nature of a soul is very gentle, it's very subtle, and yet it's very real, it's very powerful, it's very true. The sensitivities are there not by our desire, not based on what we've designed because we want it, but because something much bigger than us and much more powerful than us decided so. And so when we're creating a change in the soul, it's not going to be logical to us. It's not based on our way of thinking. It's not based on, oh, if I wanted somebody to change their behavior, I would tell them this and that, and therefore that's how the message is going to come. These changes are much deeper than simply changing how we think in the external fashion. It's not about simply making us aware of something. It's about changing our biology, changing the processes of how we respond to reality. It's changing us at the core. And this is going to require that we go through experiences that don't seem familiar to us one bit. They don't feel grounding. They don't feel like they're holding us. They feel like they're taking away everything that we know. This is how we affect change in the soul. Change in the soul means that the soul should not feel the way that it used to feel. Otherwise, there was no change. And so leaving Egypt means confronting reality. This is much harder than leaving Egypt. If we leave the illusions, that's beautiful, hooray. But what comes after is even more difficult. And that's actually confronting reality, digesting what has been happening while we've been hallucinating. This is a much bigger task. And even one who has seen all the miracles of leaving Egypt is still going to be tested as they try to absorb reality. Reality is extremely, extremely big. It's extremely real. It's beyond our capacity. Where we're not part of it, we wouldn't be capable of containing it. It's because we're part of it that a part of us becomes so pleased that even while another part of us becomes extremely offended by what's taking place, the part that becomes pleased can fill us with compassion and can allow us to survive the realization of reality. If we're not within what we're realizing, our body cannot contain it. And so realizing reality, that's entering Eretz Yisrael. Leaving illusion is exiting Egypt. So after they leave Egypt, they count 50 days where they purify their attributes to receive a message from beyond, a message that will connect them to reality. And then through that process, they're going to inherit reality. This was the plan. We're still in the middle of manifesting that plan. There's been a few hiccups. And yet here we are, still trying to realize that vision. This is what we represent as people. This is what we represent as a nation. Is that vision that was not completed, and we are going to complete it. That's what it means to be us. And so leaving Egypt, leaving the land of illusion, we don't go straight to confront reality. We go in a roundabout way to confront reality. Why? If we're going to see reality for all that it is and all its glory, we're going to run right back to illusion land. So much easier, so much more comfortable there. I can just decide whatever I want and believe it. Isn't that nice? Here I have to deal with some other intelligence that decided things thousands of years ago. How am I going to get along with him? Having enough trouble with myself there. And so in order to gain access to reality, they had to go in a bit of a roundabout way, and they've been roundabouting for a few thousand years. Still not ready to accept reality, of course. Mind you. So from here we see some insight into the calculations, if we might say, of how they were trying to deal with the people. They're dealing with a crowd that is in the millions, 600,000 just men between the age of 20 and 60. And Moshe Rabbeinu has the task of teaching these people about reality so that they can live it. We don't know yet what that means to teach about reality. We know that it's beyond anything we can conceive. We know that it justifies everything that's taking place. Once a person realizes reality, everything is justified. And that is the greatest responsibility a human being could ever carry. What allows us to continue to exist is the fact that some of us, some parts of us, don't really believe that everything is justified. And therefore, we're allowing things. We're forgiving. We're easygoing. We're letting it happen. Like, how strict can you really be? But when a person realizes the nature of the bigger picture, of the reality that we really have to eventually realize within ourselves, and so we see how every single detail, every single event, every single interaction is really part of that ultimate reality. And so that is an entirely different experience. Our nerves are not ready for such an experience. It requires training. We have to slowly allow ourselves to realize the greatness and the importance of what's taking place. We have to have enough excitement, desire to want to experience it, so that we can grow into the role. Like if a king were to have a child, and he needs to raise him because he knows that this child is going to be the future king. How important for all the people in that country that this young man have some healthy nerves. That this young man knows how to carry the pressures of what's going to await him, and he doesn't lose his cool, because people will lose their heads, and maybe even worse. We are like that. And yet, this young prince did not get the treatment, did not have the environment, did not have the education that will allow his nerves to carry the burden of reality. And this has been the task of all the leaders throughout all generations, starting from Moshe Rabbeinu and continuing until this day, is can there be one who can teach in a way that the nerves will become strong enough to carry the burden of reality. Because as long as that's not available, all the musar, all the instruction, all the discipline in the world will not be able to convince a human being to do something that his nerves cannot do. It's not about motivation. There's no lack of motivation. The world is available as a reward. This world and all the worlds to come are available as a reward. There's no lack of motivation. There's a lack of skill. There's a lack of capacity. There's a lack of wisdom, intelligence that can actually get the job done. So this is still the challenge. This is what the Torah is trying to accomplish. The Torah is here to make a human being. To make a human being that unites what it means to be Yisrael and what it means to be Kitchabrichus. We need a human being that will gap that bridge so that we can have access to the Midas HaRachamim, so that we can have access to the true intention of our design. We need the one who can guide us towards that intention. And the Torah is trying to create that one. The Torah is trying to create an environment for that one. The Torah is creating an indirect path towards pleasure, an indirect path towards peace. You look at it, you don't see it. It's not a direct path. It's not saying, do this, this, and this, and this, and you'll get pleasure. You know why? You're going to do this, this, and this, and this. You're not going to get pleasure. Where are you going to go then? Her ways are sweet. All paths lead to peace. But will it lead you there directly? Absolutely not. It's going to take you on a ride. Why? Because between you and peace there are some stops. It's not the next stop on the train. But it will take you there. It will take you on that process. And then the ultimate goal will be realized. When the ultimate goal is realized, the price will not matter. This is why big people could take all the risks. How weren't they afraid of the consequences of their risks? It's because they knew that the ultimate goal is going to justify everything. If anybody brings us closer to the ultimate goal, then everything becomes justified. And we see this also, again, in the Torah, the way that it considers, the way that it thinks. It says, if Klal Yisrael won't be ready for the Geula, because they're going to be too distracted by their illusions, then a king will rise up that's going to be as hard on them as Haman was. And then they will turn towards the redemption. Because anything in order to wake them up from their illusions. Reality is so big, so real, so worthwhile, that any price for us to wake up is a worthwhile price. There's no price that's too big. It's reality itself that we're trying to negotiate for. We want the awareness of what already is. For that, there's no price that's too big. This is why our forefathers, when they were negotiating our faith, they gladly paid thousands of years of suffering in order to get what comes after. And these were people who were very concerned about their offspring. These were people who gave everything that they had for their offspring. These were not people who took their offspring lightly. All they cared about was their offspring, and yet they were willing to put their offspring through thousands of years of indescribable suffering. And they knew the meaning of things. And this already took place. Thank God. We don't have to be the ones that know that it's ahead of us. We know that it's behind us. We hope it's behind us for good. It will be behind us for good when the earth, the element of earth, the part of us that's so stable, the part of us that's holding us grounded, will listen to the letters and the words of reality, will wake up to the emotions and to the truth of what's being done and what's happening. When we're going to be a little more grounded in truth and a little less grounded simply in what we're used to. When Paro will allow the letters to penetrate his heart, then all of the elements can go free. All of the elements can start serving life. Life is the medaber. Life is the speaking force, the living force that all the elements are supposed to work for together. So may we all have, in our own lives, an awakening of the intelligence, an awakening of the deeper elements, the higher elements, the elements that carry us closer to our purpose. And may we realize fully the escape from Egypt, the escape from our illusions. May we have the courage to search for reality, to discover reality, to digest reality, to know that reality is worth any type of price, any type of suffering we're going to pay for realizing it. If we can act in reality even for one moment, it's worth more than any form of suffering that can take place because of who we're doing it for. And he should realize our effort and our desire and should release us from exile permanently. May it happen soon.